Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today we are back in our FlyByWire A320 taking a flight from Phoenix over to Albuquerque. Very short hop in the sky, guys, but should be fun nonetheless. Stick around. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkill's tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future updates and future guides that will be coming down the road. Link to Patreon can be found in the description below. Alrighty guys, so as we get started with our flight, first thing we're going to do is take a look at our flight plan here. Forgive the lagginess, it has to do with the fact that the simulator is running in the background and running at a different FPS. But anyway, you can see we're running American Airlines 4310 from Phoenix over to Albuquerque with a cost index of 80. It's right over here on the far right. We're running real high cost index because we don't care because we're not paying for the fuel. Cruise altitude is supposed to be 35,000 feet, but I don't think we're going to go that high. Well, although we are looking for a 51-minute flight time, so that may be okay. We'll see what happens here. Final reserves got 45 minutes of flight time available for us, and a block fuel, total fuel on board, we're going to be looking at 13,640 pounds. Scrolling on down a little bit, we have a very simple flight route today. Phoenix, we're departing hopefully off of runway 26. We'll check that with ATIS. Using the FORP 1 SID over to the FORP transition, direct over to Cree, jumping onto the Cree 3, direct into Albuquerque at runway 21. Now, for those of you who don't understand the transitions here, we got FORP, which is our SID, Standard Instrument Departure, for the FORP 1. The transition FORP is our transition off of the SID onto our route, where it says DCT, that's direct, but normally between FORP and Cree would be our actual route, okay? Anything between your SID and your STAR is your route. Okay, and STAR is Standard Terminal Arrival Route, where Cree is the transition off the route onto the STAR. Okay, and let's see here, cargo we're looking at, we'll see, we're only going to pay attention to total payload 47.4 thousand pounds, shouldn't be too bad today, with a total zero fuel weight of 137.8 and a takeoff weight of 150.9 thousand pounds. All right, so enough of the jibber jabber. Let's go ahead and get into the cockpit and get the aircraft started up. All right, so stepping into the pilot seat here, first thing we're going to do is come on down. We're going to make sure our parking brake is set. Make sure the spoilers are disarmed. All engine master switches are in the norm position, and the engine master modes or engine start switches are in the cutoff position. Flaps are retracted. Predictive wind shear is off. We want to make sure the weather radar is off so we don't melt anyone's noggin if they step in front of the plane. Let's go ahead and give the cockpit door a lock, and let's step upstairs. We're going to do battery 1, then battery 2, external power to bring it to life. Then we're going to turn on our ADIRS or our navigation system. So we're going to go IRS 1, IRS 2, and finally IRS 3, all of them in the nav position. Moving downstairs, we're going to go to the evacuation order. Make sure the evacuation order is set to the captain's position. Only I decide when you leave my plane, folks. And then scrolling on down, we're just going to make sure crew oxygen supply is turned on. We don't want anyone passing out when we get to our cruise altitude up there. Moving on over to seatbelt signs on, and no smoking and no portable devices. Please make sure all cell phones, iPads, laptops, and Kindles are in airplane mode. And emergency exit light, set that to arm. In case of an emergency, head towards one of the lights and hope that it isn't something hard outside. Okay. Let's go ahead and move back down to the forward panel here, and let's turn some lights on. So we're going to brighten up our screens here. There we go. Looking good. What am I looking for? There's upper ECAM, lower ECAM, and let's see here, co-pilot lights. Let's bring them up as well. We want to make sure Barry over here can see. Okay. So with the aircraft now having electrical power, let's get our ATIS information, verify our departure, and then program the MCDU. All right, guys. So jumping into the MCDU, we're going to hit clear. Clear again. Go to ATSU, AOC or Airline Operational Control. Go to ATIS. We are currently connected using, what are we using? Pilot Edge. And we want to make sure that we type in Kilo Papa Hotel and X-Ray for Phoenix, Arizona. Make sure departure is selected. Oh, there we go. Cool. And hit send. Now, while we are waiting, let's start going in through some of the MCDU configuration. So the first thing is you have a acronym, which is diffsrip. I always say this right. Diffrip. Diffsrip? Starts with the data, initialization, flight plan, radnav, initialization page 2, and performance. So diffrip. Yep. Okay. That's what we're going with, diffrip. Anyway, secondary flight plan if necessary as well. So diffsrip. And now we're going to monitor the ECAM. You can see we have company message. So we're going to put our camera back down. Return to AOC. Received company message. Now you won't always get something, even with Pilot's Edge. Pilot's Edge is primarily West Coast, so it really depends on whether or not you have service in the area. But we should, and we do, have Phoenix Sky Harbor. So we're looking at information Yankee. This is the time in Zulu. The report is generated. Winds 2208 knots. Perfect. Visibility 10. Few clouds at 12,000, 25,000. Temperature and dew point is temperature at 32 degrees Celsius, dew point of 9, and an altimeter of 2972. Let's scroll on up and verify our runways. Runways departing runways 25 right and 26 visual, and approaches in use are going to be ILS 25, 26, which is going to be 25 left and 25 right. So let's move up here and let's see here. What did I say for altimeter? I already forgot what it was. It's a good thing we have this thing. 2972. So you can hit the B key or you can just roll it down manually. All right, so we have our altimeter set. Now let's look at programming the rest of the MCDU, beginning with our weights and balances. Okay, so to weight and fuel this beautiful aircraft, we're going to stay in the AOC menu, but we're going to back up, return to messages, return once again, and go here to weights and balances. Now, before I do this, there's actually two ways to do this. We can go into weights and balances, and you can hit OFP request on each one, or we can do it by going to initialization. It's totally up to you guys. So we're going to go to initialization page. We're going to hit initialization request, and this is assuming that you have your sim brief linked up, which I'll show you in the cruise how to do that from the flight pad. All right, so there's our information. Now let's move back over into the MCDU, ATSU, AOC, and weights and balances. All right, so now at this point, all we're going to do is hit refuel and load, go to page 2, hit request send. You can see all the numbers populate and hit start boarding. All right, now the boarding process is complete. We're going to go ahead and start programming the remainder of our flight plan, which really isn't anything today, so it's pretty easy. So moving over to the flight plan page, you can see here we have KPHX from Phoenix, using the FORP transition, flying direct to Cree, and then we need to set up our SID and star. Now, the reason why these are the only two waypoints that are loaded in is because the SID, our FORP 1, and the star, Cree 3, we can hope for whichever SID and star we want, but at the end of the day, there is only one person or one department that decides how we enter and exit their airspace, and that is air traffic control. So you can determine how you're going to get in between point A and point B. You can find the most costly route or cost-effective route for you. But as far as the SID and the star, that's up to air traffic control. So we're going to assume that we did get our desired SID and star. So we're going to go to departure. We're going to select runway 26 as our departing runway. And here we're going to find the FORP 1. There it is. Select FORP 1. And we know that our transition point, actually let's go ahead and pull the chart up because we don't know. So we're going to come here. This is Navigraph. We have KPHX selected, our SID, find the FORP 1. There it is. And we can see here, there's FORP, there's Sparky, there's Zlub. So we're probably going to be using Sparky if I'm not mistaken. Oh, nope. ABQ, Maxo, and SJN. Oh, there we go. We're going to be, there's our transition. Sorry, my bad. We're going to be using, let's see here. So we have St. John's here as the VOR. We have the Albuquerque VOR and the Maxo. We're going to be using the Albuquerque VOR as we're going to Albuquerque, New Mexico. So select Albuquerque here. And you can see it's already selected. So we have departing runway 26 using the FORP 1 SID and leaving the SID at Albuquerque. And we're going to hit insert. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with our destination. Hit our destination, select arrivals. Remember, we're hoping for 2-1 on the approach. We have RNAV. See if we have an ILS 2-1. Doesn't look like that, so we're using an RNAV approach. Let's use the RNAV Yankee. Boom, and let's see here for our star. There's our Cree 3. And via, let's see if we have a via today that we're using. Let's again rinse and repeat. Ding. So we're going to come over here and go KABQ for Albuquerque. Hit search. Bring up the book. Go to the star. Find the Cree 3. And again, now it's how are we coming into their airspace. There's the Cree waypoint that we were talking about that actually joins us, but how are we actually coming in? Let's see here. That's probably going to be the Cabno, as Culse brings us far further south. So let's go ahead and take a look at... Oh, it's not even an option. Make sure I'm not missing something here. Interesting. So it's got us selecting a different approach. Yeah, these are the transitions off of the SID. So this is where we would pick our approach waypoint. Let's check something. It may want this is where this gets fun. Let's try the Zulu. Should be the same. Nope, it is not. What's interesting here is that none of these waypoints are matching what we have in the charts. So, in that situation, what we'll try to do is find one of these in our detailed flight route. So let's move on down here. It looks like the Foxer. There it is right there. So let's go back. It was in fact wanting the other one. I remember seeing the Foxer on the Yankee. So let's select our Yankee approach. RNAV 2-1 Yankee. The Cree 3. And there's Foxer. And so where I got that was right here. Right under the Cree 3 right there. Okay. So we'll use that as our transition. And this is where we select, that's our via, and we will use the Cabno as our transition. So hit insert, and now let's take a look at the flight plan. See how it all looks. What we're going to do is come up here and switch over to plan, and from here we can bump this up to about 40. And let's go ahead and step through using the arrow here. So we're just looking for any discontinuities, any backtracks, any weird waypoints that do not belong, things that would take us way out of the route. Let's zoom in here a bit. All right, and that's actually a pretty good approach. So we're just going to come around, swing on in, and join the approach for the RNAV 2-1. Okay, so our flight plan is now complete. Let's keep moving on. We're going to go back to the initialization page. We're going to go over to page 2, and we're going to hit 0 fuel weight, 0 fuel weight center of gravity. Auto calculates the information here. Drop it into the box. For block fuel, I like to just come right up here and take it from here, 13.6. And press enter. Let it calculate. All right. RadNav, make sure, now if we were using an ILS frequency or anything like that, which we are not today. Today we're using FMS. But if we had an ILS frequency, we would make sure that was programmed in as well. From here, we're going to go over to the performance page. And now we can start calculating V speeds. So V1, the speed at which the, my bad. First set flaps 1 as our takeoff. Now we can calculate our V speeds. So there's V1 at 137 knots, the speed at which The takeoff must continue. At this speed, we no longer have enough runway left to safely stop the aircraft. Our rotation speed, 138 knots, and V2, the speed at which, in the event of a single engine loss, the aircraft will continue to climb and accelerate. All right, we're going to take that V2. We're going to go 142 knots. We're going to come up to the overhead panel. There we go. Or not the overhead panel. The FCP. And type in 152 knots, 142 plus 10. The only reason why we do that is just to give us a better performance takeoff. And we'll want to make sure that we are in manual mode, which you can see right here. We currently are, as you can see on the PFD, the target speed is indicating. Actually, did I say 142? 142? Oh, 152, sorry. I want to bring that up. I'm glad I checked that because we are not in manual mode. We're going to hit the down arrow. Oh, darn it. No, I just messed it up. I had it. There we go. 152 and 152. All right, now we've got that squared away. Goodness gracious. All right, transition altitude, always 18,000 feet in the United States. This is the altitude at which we will change from our current altimeter pressure to the standard 29902. Thrust reduction acceleration altitude. This is the altitude above ground level, I believe, at which the aircraft will reduce engine power. That's the thrust reduction to its climb performance. And it will also level out, or I should say reduce its ascent to accelerate the aircraft to climb speed. Flex Stamp, we'll talk about that in another video. Today we're just going to be using toga. We're going to be pushing those throttles to their upmost forward position and letting the engines roar down the runway until we get out of here. All right, and that is going to conclude our MCDU configuration. This aircraft is ready for pre-start, taxi, and pushback. All right, so getting ready for pushback here. I like to just sort of work my way from the aft forward here. Again, we want to make sure those cockpit doors are locked. We're going to set our transponder. Simulating a transponder code. Let's simulate, let's see, let's clear that. 6152. And we're going to set our transponder into the auto position, leaving the TCAS in standby until we are ready for takeoff. Oops, I did not mean to trigger the flaps. Again, everything else remains as is for the moment, although we can set our ignition to the start position. And other than that, we're going to now move over here, and using Navigraph once again, we're going to set our initial altitude as we are not using the in-game ATC. So returning to the Phoenix chart, taking a look at our departure, going over to SID, and we set the FORP 1. We're going to look for our initial target altitude. So let's see here. We're going to climb out here, going to ZDOG, and we are required to be above 5,000 feet at a maximum speed of 230 knots. We'll have to watch that closely. All right, but after that, we are clear to climb as desired. So the biggest thing is just making sure we're above 5,000 feet. So with that in mind, we're going to set our initial target altitude to 10,000. Well, yeah, let's do 12,000. Makes it a little bit easier because then you have less to worry about. Initial runway heading. Let's go ahead and set that as well. So we are looking for let's see here, runway 26. That can't be right. Oh no, that's departure heading. So let's go to our taxi information, airport information, find runway 26, and runway 26 heading 258 degrees right there. So we're going to throw that into the box as well. I could have picked a longer way to do that. There we go. All right, 258 degrees, so initial runway heading, target speed set, and target altitude. At this point, flight directors now come on. Damn you, Microsoft, eat me. We'll just wait for everything to come back on. I don't know why it does that. I'm so sick of that bug. That bug has been around for so freaking long. It's like, come on, guys. Anyway, let's set our initial range up to 40 nautical miles here. Altimeter is still set. Flight plan is still set. Let's go ahead and change the rotary over to arc. PFD is reading normal. Transponder code did change. Thank you so much, Microsoft. Standby is still there, but it took away, I don't even remember what it was now, so we're just going to put something in there. 6275. Looks like everything else is still good to go. So now moving to the overhead panel, we're going to go master switch on that APU. Turn the fuel pumps on. Working our way. Gen 1, Gen 2 are going to remain in fault until the engines are started. Turn on the beacon light. Oh, I reset my lights too. And let's make sure emergency exit lights. Let's see here. Nope, they were in the arm position. It's weird. Some things it resets and some things it doesn't. So odd. All right. And I believe, doing one last quick sweep here. Good, 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 good. We can turn the flight pad on if we want. And at this point, let's clear the jetway and get us out of here. So we're going to clear that jetway. And we're going to request pushback. All right. So come upstairs. Oh, we never hit the start switch on the APU. Shame. Okay. So we're just waiting for that APU to start up. Once the APU starts up, we'll be ready to get out of here. All right, so getting back into it now, we can see APU is available, so we're now good to go. Let's go ahead and hit reverse. Make sure we release that parking brake. Let it push back for a minute. While waiting for the pushback, come up top. Make sure the APU bleed is turned on. External power, sorry, should have been turned off. And we are going to switch engine 2 to the forward position and begin the engine startup process. While that's happening, we're now going to obviously start turning the tail towards the back there so we can taxi out of here. Sorry for the sort of scatterbrain going on there. Had a little chaos happening in the house there for a second. Alright, at this point we can hold here, stop the pushback, hit that parking brake, and we'll just be waiting for the engines to be at idle, or engine. Alright, so we got engine 2 at idle. We're going to rinse and repeat for engine 1. Alright, both engines are now at idle. We can now set auto brakes to max for the event of a rejected takeoff. Set our flaps to flaps 1 for takeoff. Spoilers we'll leave disarmed for now. Predictive wind shear to on, weather radar as desired. And at this point, we are ready for taxi. So let's do it. Let's get out to runway 26. We're going to release that parking brake. And we're going to push the throttles forward a little bit. Beautiful day here in Phoenix. Curious about your ground speed, you can taxi speeds right here. You want to taxi between 15 and 25 knots based on obstructions and dangers. You want to make sure that we're not turning the aircraft above 10 knots. Now on that back turn, I think I turned it right above 12 knots, so, you know, shame on me kind of thing, but make sure I give you guys the rights, not necessarily always show you. Okay, and then we got our takeoff configuration. We're going to give that a tap real quick. Come upstairs, chime the cabin.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
That's right, guys and gals. Get ready to go. Whoa. A little too much thrust there. Speaking of above 10 knots. Alright, at this point, landing lights come on. Strobe lights on as well. Let's make sure that's actually on. Oh, nope. Strobe lights are not. Alright, wing lights, landing lights, taxi light. Make sure taxi light set to takeoff. It is good. And let's get that TCAS into the TARA position. At the very least, transmit. And arm the spoilers. Alright, now the fun moment. Okay, so we're going to spin the engines up to approximately 50%. Verify engines are stable. Release the brakes. Let's go crazy. Toga. A little bit of down pressure, approximately 3 degrees down pressure until we pass through 80 knots. There's 80 knots, releasing that downward pressure. There's 100 knots. 120. Coming up on V1. There's V1. Rotating. Approximately 3 degrees per second. Up to about 15 degrees. Positive rate. Gears coming up. Following those flight directors. Loving those engine sounds. Alright, there's our thrust reduction altitude. Bring the throttles back into the climb position. Or CLB. There we go. And there's, like I was telling you earlier, we point the nose down slightly. Our ascent is reduced. The aircraft is accelerating. Once we reach that S on the speed tape there, that's when we'll retract our flaps. We'll keep putting the nose down, following the flight directors. Alright, let's come over here and go into managed mode on the heading. We've reached that S, so flaps are being retracted. I really hope I didn't hit the wrong button. I bet I did. Yes, I did. That was my fault. We lost our horizontal navigation. Hang on a second. Let's go autopilot 1. There we go. Got it back. Right on track. We want a managed ascent. There we go. Not sure why it went into vertical speed. Alright. At this point, the takeoff is complete. We can now turn our engine master mode from ignition back to normal mode. We can disarm the spoilers. Come up top, turn off the APU. And turn off APU bleed. And we are on our way. I'm going to adjust the time of day so we don't end up with a night flight. A lot of you guys don't like the night landings, so, and I understand that. Now, I don't know how many of you guys caught it, but I did something majorly wrong here. What I did majorly wrong is here at ZDogg, if we remember our chart from Navigraph, we were required to be at a maximum speed of 230 knots. We busted our airspeed. Maintain the 250, but that's not what's required. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that, as that was a major mistake on my part. ATC would have my rear end for that one. And how we would have done that, if you guys notice, when I went into Toga, our speed went into auto mode. So that was my fault. I should have taken control back over, put it back into manual mode, and set our target for 230 knots. But live and learn. It's the mistakes we make. All right, there's 10,000 feet coming up top. Landing lights off. Nose wheel light off. Could turn the nose wheel light off a long time ago. Runway turn off lights as desired. Well, turn them off at that point, but not everybody turns them on. Alright, and at this point we're going to set our target altitude up to the 35,000 feet. We actually do have quite a ways to go. It's in excess of 400 miles, so got quite a ways to go. We should have no problem hitting that altitude. Let the aircraft climb on up. At 18,000 feet, the only thing we're going to do is put our mouse right here. We get a down arrow, give it a left click, and that will force the altimeter back into standard mode of 902, and you'll see STD for standard down here underneath the altitude tape. But that is it from here on to cruise, guys. So I will catch you guys as it is time to start talking about our top of descent. So I'll catch you guys in a while. Alright guys, so it is as I feared. We're not even to our cruise altitude yet, but we're about 170 miles out. So I can guarantee that exactly what I thought is going to happen is going to happen. That's that right when we get to cruise altitude, it's going to be time to descend. So I'm going to show you what I use. I use this top of descent calculator. Now we're putting in our 35,000 feet, and our target is 10,000 feet. And I find 10,000 feet to be easier to manage, and I'll show you why. But first, we're using this waypoint, AMRA. At AMRA, we have to be at or above 10,000 feet. So we're going to call that our target, because you can see down here, then we get to 8,000, and then we get onto the approach. So, using 10,000 feet as our target. Our start speed, where you can get this, the easiest place that I find to start out with here is just to take it right here. So about 480 knots. So we're going to come up, we're going to come up here. I didn't mean to close that, but oh well. And let's type 484. End speed, we know at 10,000 feet or below, we have to be at a maximum of 250 knots. All right, so by calculating all this into this, and this link will be in the description below, you can see we have a top of descent of 103 nautical miles away. Estimated time to our target altitude is approximately 17 minutes on a 3-degree glide slope. So it just makes things a little bit easier. The top of descent calculator inside the fly-by-wire flight pad is very nice, but I just find this to be significantly easier to use. I'm not sure why we're holding steady at 34,000 feet, but whatever is what it is. Aircraft must have some reason for it. So we know that 103 nautical miles away from AMRA, not from the whole shebang, but from AMRA, we know that we need to start our descent. So let's see here. We're still looking at to SJN. Let's see what we can do here. Where are you? Should be in here. Oh, I know we were coming in on AMRA. I saw it. Oh, maybe we're not. Is it Foxer then? I want to make sure I'm picking the right location. I could be mistaking the location here. Now I'm second guessing myself. Alright, so for the star, looking at the Cree 3, coming in here, We could even do 11,000 feet, because I'm pretty sure X marks is there. Why am I not seeing any of these, actually? There's Foxer, ABQ, or there's the ABQ. That's still far up. That's off the star. Or the SID. None of these waypoints add up to what we're looking for. I could have sworn I saw AMRA there. But we'll well, we're just going to have to make do with what we got here. In that case, we're going to go all the way down to the elevation altitude. I don't normally like doing this, but yeah, none of these are matching up. It's a little frustrating. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But let's just go ahead and keep moving because we don't have time to mess around. So, elevation altitude. So we're going to go into our approach. We're going to find the RNAV to 1. I think we did Yankee. It doesn't really matter. All we're interested in is the elevation altitude. So we're looking for touchdown zone elevation of 5,300 feet. So we're going to make that our target instead. So we're going to grab this guy. We're just going to call 5,300. 118 nautical miles away is where we need to make sure that we are coming down to hit our descent. So not quite there yet. 118. So we still got time. Enter destination data. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. This is pretty easy to do too. Now you can do a couple of different things here. This is another one of those times where I like to go to ATSU, AOC, assuming that you're in a position you can do this, ATIS, and let's see, we want our arrival, and hit send. And we should get the ATIS information. That's really what it's looking for here. And we're just going to sit here and wait for the company message to appear on screen. Looks like we finally got to our altitude. There's our company message. Alright, so at this point, return to AOC, received messages, ATIS is going to be the top one. Oh, no, it's going to be the bottom one. No, I was right. Darn it. Receive messages. Go to the top. I forgot I changed the time. Okay, so we do have what we need. And what we can do here is we can go to print. This is one of the best parts about this aircraft. And once we hit print, it'll come out back here. We can just click on it, brings it up front. And now we have everything we need to enter our destination data. So we're going to go back to performance. Go to next, let's see, next phase. Next phase. There we go. QNH. What do we say? 29905 is the altimeter today at Albuquerque. So we're going to drop that in. Temperature. Remember, that's going to be those two numbers side by side. Right there. 25 is our temp. Winds. What do we got for winds today? 190 at 9 knots. 190 409. Transition to altitude, as always, 18,000 feet. All right, and we are doing a full flaps configuration. Now, for our minimums, it wants barometric altitude because of the RNAV approach. So where we're going to find that is we're looking for 5758 is going to be our barometric altitude. That's our decision height. So 5758. Drop that up here in the box. And basically at 5,700 feet, if we have not made visual contact with the runway, we need to go around. Now remember, this is 5,700 feet above sea level. Okay. All right. And at that point, let's go ahead and see where we're at as far as our distance to airfield. Still a ways away, not quite 103, but what we can do now is start setting our target altitude. Now we're going to want to make sure we don't breach anything. But we're looking for, what did I say? Well, let's set it for 5,000. That'll get us to where we need to be. We're going to need to adjust that anyway later on. So we're just going to leave that in the target, ready to roll here. And now we're just waiting for us to pass through that 103 nautical miles. And I'll catch you guys when we start the descent. All right, so remember, we're looking for that 118 nautical miles away, not 103. We can go to the progress page here, and we can set... If we go to what about KABQ? Where is it? Where's the Q? Drop that guy right in here. See, 122 nautical miles away. So we're going to go ahead and start that descent now. So there we go. Go into managed mode. You can see it's descent. This is a managed descent. Open descent is where it's going to descend at your current airspeed, and where descent will manage the 3-degree glide slope according. So we have a ways to go, and you can see it is honoring our first flight restriction. We do have a flight restriction of 8,000 feet, so it is beautiful that it is managing that. Also, here you can see our D indicating the decel point. This is the point at which the approach mode will automatically activate down here in the MCDU. So great stuff with this aircraft. Always a fantastic flight, and I'll catch you guys as we get down just about to the 10,000 foot mark. Okay, at 18,000, well, normally it takes a little bit, a few hundred feet for us to actually get it. But at 18,000 feet, we'll be sure to change our altimeter to the current barometric pressure. All right, so we're passing through 18,000 feet. So at this point, we're going to give this guy a tap. I'm going to hit the B key, get our current altitude pressure at our current altitude. And I want to show you guys something. It's really interesting. So even though we selected the Cree 3 approach, look at the aircraft's position in relationship to where we're supposed to be. Now, to give you guys context, for those of you who may not have seen this before, normally you can find the aircraft right going down the lines that it's supposed to be on. I find it very interesting the way this all came down. I mean, Cree, this was our direct waypoint. We should be flying directly at it. So, again, found that to be really interesting that this whole thing went down. But, you know, it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. So, let's go ahead and come around here. Now, one thing I did see is we have a speed restriction. So, I'm going to slow the aircraft down to 270 knots. All right. And we're coming in at about 60 miles until touchdown, guys. So I'll catch you guys right about our touchdown elevation here. Or our touchdown. Our transition elevation, 8,000 feet. All right, passengers, we are getting closer and closer, now approaching 12,000 feet. So we're going to slow this aircraft down to 250 knots as required by FAA regulations in the United States. Landing lights, we're going to go ahead and bring them on now. Stay a little bit ahead of the game here. as 10,000 feet once again requires our lights to return. For a landing, nose wheel light's going to go to taxi. You can do it now, you can do it when you put the gear down, totally up to you. Alrighty then. Other than that, we are still looking absolutely fantastic. No issues going on yet. And I'll catch you guys as we get just a little bit closer. Alright, we're now down below 10,000 feet. We're going to give that B key a tap once again. Make sure we have our current altitude. We're going to set that once again right about, probably about 1,000 feet from landing here. We're going to start reducing the aircraft down to 210 knots. That's right, 210. We're inside 30 miles from our destination. There's 210 knots in the box. We're going to put medium auto brakes on. Got plenty of runway to land on. Shouldn't need much. We could probably get away with low. Truth be told, look at that, 26 miles away. Don't count the turnaround there. It's going to add a little bit on. Yes, I am a little bit ahead of the game. I do that for your benefit, for those of you who are trying to learn from this video. That way you can stay ahead and I'm not doing things last minute and freaking you out. So, we got 210 knots. What happened to my lights? There we go. Hey, that makes that a lot easier to see, doesn't it? Alright, so yep, down to 210. We're slowing down 210, coming up on our 8,000 foot restriction once we pass that by. Let's go ahead and set that down to 20 miles here. At 8,000 feet, once we pass this restriction, that's where the game's going to get really exciting. We're going to start preparing this aircraft for landing and just keeping things rolling on in, so stay tuned. Alright, so the beautiful news is that our missed approach altitude is actually 8,000 feet, so we're going to go ahead and throw 8,000 up in the box. We're basically right where we need to be to begin the approach, and I'm showing you guys what I mean. Remember, our touchdown altitude should be reading 5,316 feet, so 5,316. Let's go ahead and tap that B key once again. I'm just going to make sure that we're still on point here. Everything is looking fantastic. We're going to reduce this down to 10 miles. This is where this is going to get very exciting very, very quickly. So, at this point here, let's see here, we're at 210 knots. Let's go ahead and go flaps 1. Again, staying ahead of the curve for you guys' benefit and bringing us down to 190 knots. We're going to keep the recording going all the way in from here. Now remember, we are doing an RNAV approach, so we don't have to worry about ILS or the localizer. It's all done through GPS today. We can go to our performance page. We can see our approach speed. We're looking at 138 knots. Touchdown should be about 133.
Flight attendants, please prepare for landing.
Going back over to our progress page, we can see we're 5.6 out. And that's going to be parallel distance here. It's a direct line to it. So we're right about where we need to be. So at this point, slowing the aircraft all the way down to 140 knots. Landing gear coming down. Flaps down. Approach mode. Activate it. Flaps are down to flaps 2, by the way. Going for flaps 3. And actually, we're going to continue our descent. The approach mode I'm not seeing coming on, which is making me nervous. So we're going to set our altitude for 6,000. And we should be referencing full flaps. Full flaps.
2,500.
Not sure why our approach phase isn't activated. It says it's activated. There we go. Spoilers, arm them. It's very interesting that we're not getting that. Alright, so this is what I was talking about. If anything goes wrong, we're going to take control of the aircraft and do what we got to do. Put 8,000 back in here for our escape altitude. Disconnect the autopilot. So we're flying manually now. We're a little low.
100 above. 500. Minimum.
Continuing.
300. 200.
Come left a little,
200.
darling. Come left a little.
One 100. 50. 40. 30. 20.
Flaring.
10, 5.
Oof, a little hard. Thrust reversers deployed. 80 knots. Thrust reversers retracted. Alright, we're down. Little left to center. Not too bad. Like I said, I don't know if the auto approach, I really don't think it was working. I really don't think it was working at all. It should have captured the glide slope still. There is still a glide slope with an RNAV approach. At least there has been in the past for me. But it wasn't doing anything today. It was just holding steady, and that made me nervous. So we took control. Did what we got to do. Okay, although it's been a while since I've flown the A320, admittedly. All right, so landing lights now come to off. Taxi light remains on. We have cleared the runway. Flaps are retracted. Spoilers are disarmed. TCAS system now set back to the standby position. Transponder can remain on. Start the APU for parking. And other than that, just, oh, strobe light also comes off. And we're good to go. At this point, we would taxi over to our gate and call it a day. I hope you guys have enjoyed this flight. It was definitely a fun one for me. It's definitely missed being back in the A320. She's a lot of fun to fly. And be sure you guys leave those comments down below. Let me know if I did something wrong. By all means, I am not the best. I'm not the worst. I'm just another guy who enjoys flight simming like you do. And as always, guys, stay safe and healthy. And I will see you in the next one. Have a good one, folks.